You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up.
Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life.
It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back!
Does anybody else want to stay?
Let's ride!
Good evening. It's so good to be here on a wonderful first Monday in the new year. It is January 5th, 2026. 2026. I like the sound of that. I didn't like the sound of 2025. It sounded like shit. Anyway, I hope that you are ready for another go around the sun, if you believe in that sort of thing. And welcome. I also I don't want to waste a moment in thanking Mike May, my good buddy Mike May, longtime friend Mike May, for putting together, slaving over the Christmas break to put together that wonderful new intro. We are going to be tweaking it along the way, but I'm so happy. We're actually making it so that little updates can be done a little bit more often. And I'm very proud of it, and I'm very proud of Mike, and I'm just thankful for his friendship. Also want to thank Lubomir Arsov for the man who created In Shadow and Kingdom, for allowing us to use bits and pieces of his creation to fill up that first 1/3 of the intro there. Just a little something. I said I got to ask Lubomir if we can just use flashes of his stuff, because I think it really sets the table, and it does. And now the table has been set, and welcome to the new year. So good. All right. Well, what are we gonna do? Did anything interesting happen? Anything interesting happen over the weekend? Have you heard of anything? Where do you even start? Obviously, the main course is going to be the Maduro raid and the being transferred over here to New York. We're going to have time for calls tonight. We want your calls tonight. You got to be there for it. In fact, ladies and gentlemen, remember, lurking in 2026 is not allowed. No matter who you watch regularly, if you love them, if you like that show, if you find that show adds something to your life that it's just a part of your routine, then love that show. Love it back. Okay? If the show loves you, love it back. That means hit the like button, leave a comment. If it's within your means, then by all, please sponsor that show. There's so much money floating around out there. All the money. You think about what the world could really be if it wasn't being stolen and funneled through a war zone, or funneled through an empty building somewhere in Minnesota that's supposedly giving health care or education to people that don't exist. Oh, it's just incredible. It's incredible. So, ladies and gentlemen, as we push through, as we erupt through and continue to take our place on the newly forming earth, especially the media landscape, do your little bit. Do not lurk. It will kill everything that you love on the internet. That's all I have to say. So have some fun in the comments, and then also call into the show. We're going to have Lauren Conlon. She's going to be calling in around 7:45 to just for a quick 15-minute call to just end the first hour, because, of course, anything that happens in New York, she's usually there on the ground, especially when it happens in the Southern District of New York, in the courtrooms. Well, she was able to get down to the courtroom today to cover what was going on with Nicolás Maduro. And I want to see what's going on outside, what's going on inside. So we're going to have a little bit of that. I'm hoping that we're going to get a couple of more interesting calls as the night goes on. We have a lot of media to read through. Jason Burmis is probably going to call in tomorrow for a little bit. I want to see what he has to say. I'm going to try to get a couple of our other friends to pop in. Just good to start the new year with some friends, you know? So when the lines go open, fumble for your phone and call in with whatever you got, because I'm certain that there's going to be people who are split on all of this stuff. In fact, let's see what the splits are right now. We can go over to Quite Frankly's YouTube. You can jump into even if you're not watching on YouTube, there's so many places you can watch right now, like 6 places that you can watch live, and then dozens more after the fact. But right now, if you go over to YouTube, please vote in the chat poll. Right now we have this. Let's see here. Thoughts on Venezuela? I just threw it out there. What do you think? Is it great and more to come? Do you not like it? I don't like it at all? Or are you taking a wait and see approach on this? Right now, it's 49% great and more to come. 13% say I don't like it at all. And wait and see, 37%. Great and more to come just hit 50%. I got to tell you, man, I am waffling between wait and see and great. Because there's something different about this. There was something different about this once it started getting where I'm leaning right now is really all about whether or not and in what order we are going to get to stolen elections. That's the big thing for me right now. When do we get the stolen elections? Because the messaging of all of this has been packaged together with elections and of course the just complete offshore funding and mobilization of everything from drugs to migration and everything else that we're dealing with right here in the U.S. Of course, there has to be buffers. There has to be places, satellite locations. In the way that it has been really broken down and analyzed, at least over the last few years. Now, I don't understand it to the degree that some other people do. I knew that there was some really hard jockeying between Venezuela and Guyana because of what was happening there with their resources and what the current administration in Venezuela brought to the table. But I'll tell you one thing, Venezuela more and more over the years started to seem essentially like the Western Hemisphere's Ukraine. But at the same time, it's just like, okay, well, I'm sure that there's a lot of countries out there being run by people with mixed intent. Maybe they're just, do they care about their people or not? Who knows? How much of it can be our business? If there are bad actors out in the world, isn't it just good to know who the bad people in the neighborhood are and just keep an eye out for them? But other than that, what are you going to do? Just because there's bad people in the world, you preemptively go after them all? You can't be the world police or anything like that. So it's just one of those things that when this drops on you, you say, okay, now I'm listening. The drug boat thing, I didn't want to hear about. I didn't want to hear about it. Going into the Caribbean, going into the Pacific, looking for drug boats and bombing them to shit. That was just like, okay, can we keep deporting people over here? I don't care about that. If it comes anywhere near our shores, if any of those boats creep out of international waters, then yeah, I mean, blow them to bits. But this was different. This was different, especially since the messaging came very closely packaged with everything that we were waiting for people like Sidney Powell to drop on us in 2020. It's been 6 years since we were all waiting with bated breath to see if the Kraken was going to be released. And we're going to get around to a lot of that tonight because what the hell? What the hell? What do we always say? How much do we really know? How much do we ever really know are we going to be let in on? Now, I have a hard time just having blind faith in anything other than God. I have a hard time with that. So that's why, I mean, you know, if you know me as a sports fan, even just somebody who likes the Yankees, you would think that I'm not a Yankee fan because they frustrate me. I can't stand what I see on the field. I can't stand the shit I hear coming out of the front office. Doesn't mean I can't not be a fan. I know how much I want them to succeed, but that really applies to so many other things as well. I know sports is frivolous based on, you know, compared to everything, but when you're talking about things that are far more consequential now. Anywho, that's where we are tonight, and that'll be the main dish. We'll get to that in just a second. Of course, the other little one, here are other things that we don't have any time to talk about tonight, but I'm sure we'll talk about it soon, and Jay Gulanello will be on for any number of his monthly scheduled visits soon, and we have this. RFK Jr. overhauls childhood vaccine schedule to resemble Denmark's, an unprecedented move. This is from NBC News. The new U.S. guidelines recommend all children get vaccines for 11 diseases, compared with the 18 including COVID, previously on the schedule. So, I mean, there's the DTaP, well, whatever. Then you have what's it? The pneumococcal I don't know. It doesn't even matter. I don't care about any of this. The MMR, of course, is all still in there. Chickenpox. I thought that chickenpox was just rite of passage. You know, by the time we were growing up, nobody was really getting measles. I think my father had measles. And actually, according to my father, he had like two types of measles. He had regular measles and then German measles, whatever the hell that means. And, but chickenpox, I mean, we all had it. I think that I was like set up to give my brother chickenpox like on purpose, just to get it over with. I think we had it around the same time. Not sure, but I don't know. This is a pretty big move. And of course, we can't talk about it right now because there's too much else going on. Minnesota, Tim Walz appears to be defeated during a press conference around noon as he finally addressed the Somali-linked fraud scandal that has ended his re-election bid, essentially what it is. And Nick Shirley is, good for him, taking a victory lap, saying, I broke Tim Walz. Did he say I broke him or I defeated him or I ended him? It's definitive like that. Walz's team has shifted from dismissing those who questioned or investigated the Somali-linked daycare and autism fraud as racist or Islamophobic to now acknowledging that serious corruption occurred under its leadership. Walz still found time to attack. This is from Zero Hedge. Still found time to attack Trump and Republicans, blaming them for, quote, seeking to take advantage of a crisis. I don't want to mince words here. Donald Trump and his allies in Washington and St. Paul and online want to make our state a colder, meaner place. You can't call out rampant corruption and graft. None of that. You can't call that out because you're just going out of your way at that time to make a bad situation worse. Of course, it's all very criminalistic. Of course, we're very criminally over here. We're all criminals. Of course, we're setting people up. Yeah, come on. But did you have to make such a big deal about it? That was very mean. Very mean. You know what's mean? I'm not even going to say it. There's a lot of things I'm going to try not to say tonight. But to hell with it. It's a new year. I think I'll say whatever the fuck I want. I just want to see in 2026, as I said, as the new media landscape is now.
I have such of a love-hate relationship. Here's some money.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Thank you. Hold on, I'm going to put those speeches on pause just for a second because this is going to be a really dense one. We have calls coming in soon. But this is what I am talking about with the new media landscape being reshaped for 2026. Because Nick Shirley did this, and now there are people popping up all over the place, knocking on doors, very respectfully, of course, and just doing a little bit of prying into similar organizations in Ohio and other states. And what do you know? What do you know? It seems even worse. Seems even worse. Now, I said that Nick and we one day we'll get him in this studio when things calm down, if they ever do, because I think he's just on a rocket ship into orbit right now. But with Nick, I wonder what kind of resources he actually has. I wouldn't be surprised if Nick was given just a little bit of a hint as to where to sniff around. Mr. Shirley, would love for you to just snoop around. I don't know, maybe not. Maybe this is just all his. It seems like he knows where he's going next. He's always hopping on a plane and going to the next hot spot, and he's always getting the story that everybody else refuses to even attempt. It's great. It really is fantastic, and this is his time. But I wonder, especially for this big one, I wonder how, because this is like a nuclear bomb that has gone off over the last couple of weeks, between how hard it hit in Minnesota and now what's going on with Venezuela, and we'll see about that. Let's go to American Thinker. AmericanThinker.com by Clarice Feldman. What a way to start 2026. A couple of minutes on this. We're going to bounce around. Like George Washington crossing the Delaware to beat the Hessians as they rested on Christmas, the U.S. pulled off an incredible military operation capturing Venezuela's Nicolás Maduro in his pajamas. Christmas week was a rather slow week, but the big news being the further unraveling of the corruption in Minnesota, Washington State, California, and other Democrat redoubts. But the George Washington crossing the Delaware to beat the Hessians as they rested on Christmas, the U.S. pulled off an incredible military operation capturing Venezuela's Nicolás Maduro in his pajamas and bringing him back here to answer to criminal charges. The Venezuelan military was largely on Christmas leave, and Maduro's international protectors, the Chinese and the Russian forces in Venezuela, were caught flat-footed, diminishing their credibility in the Western Hemisphere. The impact of this operation was enormous. Now, one thing I thought was really interesting that has come up now a lot lately, and I guess it would be unavoidable in that respect, is the Monroe Doctrine. We're talking James Monroe, we're talking early 19th century, and we're talking about U.S. foreign policy being established back then, 200 years now, that we were going to be the preeminent power in the hemisphere, that no old world powers from Europe, especially, were going to come in and do anything to North America, especially, as Manifest Destiny was still it's in its infancy over there. But especially in Central and South America too, that was going to be a sphere of influence was set up. Now, it's interesting because just recently we had our friend Alberto in, and Alberto will be in on, I think, the 20th or something like that as well. And what he left me was a special edition copy of John Perkins' book, Confessions of an Economic Hitman. And now when you read that book, the story of Central and South America takes on a completely different outlook. And when you overlay what you know about Central and South America and how the resources are used and how civilian populations are ignored and what corporatism really is, to a large degree, socialism and communism in Venezuela is not even really, that's the red herring story. That's the red herring story. First of all, socialism, communism, what are you going to say? I mean, socialists and communists don't even believe in socialism and communism because look at how they live. Socialism is for the people. It's not for the socialist. And when you think about corporate interests and when you think about what other nations around the world, in this case, we're talking China, Russia. I mean, that's largely a lot of that the BRICS nations. You think about what's going on there, and it does take on quite a different shade. And I've been collecting input from a lot of friends. I have some black-pilled. I have some white-pilled stuff. I want to hear what you got to say. But we're going to keep on with this just for a little bit. So drugs, election fraud, Migrant warfare. This is one of the first published accounts of the operation by Monica Showalter over there also at American Thinker. Drugs, election fraud, that's the big one. That's why I'm saying, okay, I'm going to sit back and twist my mustache just for a little bit. Migrant warfare, a place for Venezuelans to return home to, and above all, crushing the far-left fountainhead itself. That is what this is about. For 27 years, Venezuela's Marxist regime had spread its errors throughout the hemisphere, terrorizing governments, propping up far-left bankrolling insurgents and assassins, supporting drug dealers, supporting Hezbollah and its drug and terror operations, and supporting China with oil too, so it can have enough of it to take out Taiwan. Lots of pundits and military analysts are hailing back to Iraq, but this is not Iraq. This is about taking out a great plague of destabilization in the hemisphere, the ground zero of destabilization. Some of its greatest hits began with the prophetic warning of former Venezuelan central banker Ruth Krivoy in New York Investment House around 2000 that Venezuela would seek to destabilize the region. They were in the captured FARC computer of 2007, where Colombia's then allied government learned that Venezuela was in way deeper than anyone realized in supporting these dangerous narco-terrorists who brought hell to Colombia. There was the assassination of in Chile of a military dissident by Venezuelan goon squads, and the fomenting of unrest in the streets there too, as well as in Peru and Brazil. There was the border surge against the U.S., including the emptying of Venezuelan prisons and the government involvement in the formation of its transnational gangs. Now, whatever you say, and there's a lot of interesting things to be dug up and said and pieces to be put back together about the merits of an operation like this and where it all might be leading, and perhaps why we are being so frustrated. I hope what I'm about to say bears some fruit, because what the hell do I know? You come to me, say, Frank, I think you're being blind on one thing. I want to color something in for you. Good, call in. But what I'm saying is, if it could be in any way, shape, or form that domestic, and I don't know why this would be, because right now you have majorities in both houses of Congress and you have the White House. So why couldn't you get anything done legislatively? You know, why couldn't you go nuclear for a little while? I don't know that. I don't know that. But when you talk about supposed left-wing fountainheads of not only money laundering, but when you talk about the organizational powers of all of the migration issues that we're dealing with, and of course elections of the past, present, and future, then maybe there was just so many bigger things that had to happen first, and we were just left to, why are we going to be told? That doesn't appease and answer all the questions. That doesn't allay all the fears and the frustration. That's for damn sure. And there's some things that just still don't make any sense. I know that we're all still hung up. A lot of people are still hung up on Jeffrey Epstein. And any news that breaks, inevitably there's going to be Epstein comments in the comments section, because that's the only news that matters to some people, which is not insignificant, but still. Now, when you look at this, you cannot separate it from something else that makes you go, uh-oh. And, well, let's see. And that is the fact that you got Lindsey Graham and John Bolton. And, I mean, the people, they've probably been sexually aroused for 3 days straight now. Okay? They're probably walking around with books over their crotches. Trapper keepers over their crotches. And you can't you can't not think about that, because it was in Trump 1.0 that Venezuela and the saber rattling that was going on with John Bolton at the time. He was trying to, get things kicked off in Venezuela and in Iran. And we were like, oh man, get this mustache out of here. Just get him out. And I mean, you telling me he's unhappy with this right now? The media is unhappy with it. The left is definitely unhappy with it. So there are some people you're happy or unhappy. There's other people you're unhappy or happy. I don't like that this person's happy. I like that these people are unhappy, though. And honestly, we have such bad intelligence that we get to work with as civilians, and all we do is speculate, and all we do, there are things that we can put together for ourselves, but we're allowed to speculate because sometimes it's all you can do. And, what certain people and certain groups like or don't like is a good indicator, especially if what they like or don't like is they could just be acting like they don't like it. Anywho, you can count on the president's critics to challenge this action. They continue on American Thinker. You can count on the president's critics to challenge this action. In another magic trick, the president will have them supporting Maduro, a thief, a narco-terrorist, a tyrant. But as Jonathan Turley notes, the president is well within his right to use military, as he did here, to support law enforcement. Maduro is in custody of the Department of Justice to answer pending legal charges in the SDNY. Now, I read the indictment. And the first thing I went through, I did a Control F first, and I typed elections. I typed voting machines. I typed all that, just whatever. It was, a couple dozen pages. And then I scanned through with my eyes, and I saw the charging statements and all that stuff. The 4 counts. What do we have? Hold on a second. Where are you? Here it is. Maduro indictment. So I didn't see anything about elections in this. That's the first thing I'm looking for because it's the thing that I'm most interested in at the moment personally. It maps out the defendants as usual, and then we have the actual charges themselves, which start over here on page. Where the hell are we at? Here we go. The statutory allegations. So count 1, narco-terrorism conspiracy. Count 2, cocaine importation conspiracy. I think that's what's going on there with Colombia and whatnot. And then count 3, possession of machine guns and destructive devices. Count 4, conspiracy to possess machine guns and destructive devices. So I'm waiting for the addendum. I'm waiting for where this goes next. Because of course, there are other implications here and how deep the impacts are, but still, that's big. That's big. You think about those couple of months in between election night 2020 and then that stillbirth inauguration day in 2021 of Joe Biden, who was already completely cognitively gone. And those couple of months, those 3 months in between, it was just Rudy Giuliani, Patrick Byrne, Sidney Powell, who's saying who's gonna make the big drop? Are the Marines gonna cross the Rubicon and stop the whole thing? This is one of those things where you just I never could understand it. Sidney Powell never put her reputation on the line for something that was not real. Could it be? So. And again, a lot of the stuff that is being tweeted out right now on Truth Social and elsewhere by the president and syndicated onto other sites like Twitter and whatnot, it's coming hand in glove with our elections are going to be secure once again, and essentially that we're going to lay waste to people that have had their hegemony just completely unquestioned for what is now probably a couple of decades, more than a couple of decades. Let's go on with this, though. All right, so he's talking about what's happening here. Beside the impact on Cuba, because that's another thing that's happening. There's been some shots across the bow at Colombia. There's also been a lot of talk about how Cuba is about to fall. That's another thing that I saw. Lindsey Graham get so giddy that he squealed like a little piglet. And I said, oh, no. I mean, I'm bracing. We're on this roller coaster together. We're only a couple of days into the new year. What are we going to do? Just hold on, take a deep breath, and we'll be all right. Besides the impact on Cuba, here are some of the consequences of the Maduro action. It decouples South America from Russia, Iran, China. All their forces in Venezuela were unable to respond to this decapitation strike. This means that they have all lost credibility as protectors of tyrants in the hemisphere. I know that it was a fan favorite. Out of everything that happened here over the last couple of days, one of the fan favorite things that people have been memeing about and just talking about and wishing they could have been a fly on the wall was how there was Chinese delegation that was left just kind of, they were just there. And you know, as Maduro is being swiped out of his bedroom in his pajamas and just, you know, taken to New York. And the Chinese are just kind of out there, and what are they going to do? You know, so that's kind of embarrassing. It's almost like going to your friend's house and having to watch them get beat by their parents. You ever been at your friend's house? You're going over to hang out, and they either disobeyed or they had some kind of smart ass response, and you're like, oh shit, don't do this with me here. And they end up getting hit, and you're just kind of like, you're just looking off. Frank, I think you have to call your mom. It's okay. Somebody come get the Chinese. I can't. Anyway, so that's just one thing. Here's another one. Hugo Chavez and Maduro together have cost us dearly. They seized billions of dollars in U.S. assets, which we aim to recover, and they flooded the U.S. with drugs and criminals. The drug shipments were halted by targeted strikes on boats transporting them here, and the criminal transports had ended with our closing Biden's open borders. Iran, which profited from assistance to its proxies, Hezbollah and Hamas, has lost an ally and the economic ties to Maduro. Most importantly, as more Venezuelan oil is marketed, risk premiums on oil will be lowered in Iran, and Russia will reap far smaller profits in the sale of their oil, leaving Russia pressed to continue its high-cost fight in Ukraine, and Iran less able to fund terrorism. These are things that those things I don't give a shit about. Those things I don't give a shit about. I still don't understand. I think Iran is mostly not our fight. And I don't, the propaganda about the inevitability and of all of their, I don't know, all of their conquests, what they want to do nuclear around the world, and Russia. I mean, that whole thing there, I don't get. And I'm still on the fence with a lot of it. China will lack an oil source it needs if it were to follow through on its threats to invade Taiwan. And domestically, it means Venezuelans who fled here will be able to return home and rebuild. That I don't understand either. That I don't understand either. Because, of course, you cut off the head. You have one guy that's gone. That's one guy. So I often wonder, like, you know, what does come next? You would hope that people are able to go. How it's been made clear is that the biggest relocation, the biggest exodus of people leaving their homelands in the world, obviously was Syria in recent years, but Venezuela would be number two, a close number two. And whereas you do want to see people go back to where they belong, to where their familial ties are, their culture has their ancient histories rooted and all that stuff, you want to see that stuff happen. You always wanted to see that happen more than having people just say goodbye to the place that they only ever knew and then get brought into the frigid temperatures of Minnesota and you know, set up with a daycare center to run. But I wonder where that comes from and where it all goes from there. Because one man does not make a revolution. So what keeps the government in line? I know part of the press around the raid was about how the United States was essentially going to be running the country for a little while. So I don't know if this just going to be a military junta in the meantime, whatever the hell it is, but it's just eventually you gotta flush everybody out, don't you? I mean, what are the military loyalties like? We know that some of them were on leave or something like that, but if Venezuela is truly going to have a new lease on life, how does it change? Essentially, it's the same questions I ask about us over here in the U.S. We talk about the makeup of Congress, the actions of one president or another, the deep state. We talk about the show that we're able to watch, and then the ventriloquists who are holding all the strings behind the scenes. But it's clear that the biggest problem we have is the mangled hearts and minds of Americans around us, our fellow citizens who have had patriotism burned out of them, psychologically lost. Maybe it's not that bad. I don't know how that particular thing is like over there in Venezuela. Maybe it really just is that you can control a whole lot of people with a very relatively small, concentrated, deadly force, just like sheepdogs are able to be vastly outnumbered by the sheep, but keep them in line. So, I mean, it's herd mentality. It doesn't mean that everybody in Venezuela is a socialist. So I often wonder about that. Perhaps we can get some insight from people in the audience who have a little to share. I also wonder what the hell is going to happen in the Southern District of New York. What kind of ruling is going to come down in the Southern District of New York? Simply because Donald Trump was the president. Not because this wasn't like one of the stated intents of even the Biden administration when they were doing their whole 4-year LARP over there. I mean, you guys have seen that pop up over the last couple of days, because it's fun just to throw that at Democrats whenever they start spurging out. And that is to show them that back in January of 2025, that there was a $25 million bounty put on Maduro and some of his, right hand and left hand men by the Biden administration. So this is not who brought him in and what kind of sentence is going to be passed down in the Southern District of New York. Maybe it won't matter. Maybe it will just be donezo. Maybe it will. But I think that's interesting. And in a couple of minutes, we're going to have Lauren Conlon call in. She's been on the ground in New York City, going to tell us about what's been happening outside the courtroom, what happened inside the courtroom with Nicolás Maduro today. And that'll take us to the top of the hour. And then I want you guys and gals calling in. We got great audiences watching all over the place. There'll be many, many more watching after the fact. For those of you who are watching live, leave something for the people who are going to listen later to chew on. Okay? Consider this the inside info hotline is what. Maybe I'll open up the inside information hotline. Maybe that's what I'll do. We'll do that after Lauren gets on. That'd be great to get some inside information. I actually got a little bit of inside information from a friend of mine who has a Skull and Bones friend. I said, hey, what does your 322 friend mean? Think about all this stuff. You want to hear what they say? 322 told me that last night, this is about rare earth minerals in Venezuela and Guyana. NVIDIA AI, that's missile microchips, and Lucky Palmer's defense systems will require essentially unlimited solar power. Greenland was a shot at their bow, New World Order types, his words. And ultimately, soon as Trump was sworn in, Russia and China started negotiating with Maduro to secure peacefully what Trump just did by force. He also said, predictably, the messaging from the right will be election fraud, which will take election fraud take, which is going to be on full press. I hope it's not just a take. That's my whole thing. 13 contractors already in books to extract minerals, etc., and build batteries. And et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, what do you think about that? Here's another. I'll give you some white pills. Paul Fleurit says Caracas was a major CIA hub. Okay. Venezuela is home of the election fraud. Venezuela and the Bush family built a vast drug empire together. Venezuela helped build Hezbollah into what it is. It is not a coincidence that Maduro's regime fell at the same time that the Iranian regime is falling in Iran. You are watching a well-oiled military plan to completely take down the deep state. I promise the Bush family and all the other deep state families are shitting cinder blocks today. Ignore the panicans. Hate that word. This is the deep state being toppled before your eyes. There is the white pill for you. Now, as far as the CIA, I mean, this is reported by the New York Times and others, but it's been reported that there was a CIA source inside of Venezuela's government to help track Maduro and make sure that he was where he was supposed to be when the extraction was going to happen. Now, obviously, everybody that works for the CIA is not in on the take. Is not on the take or in on some New World Order plot or has dual allegiances. Some people actually get into the line of work for the right reasons, and you'd have to have some intelligence, somebody behind the scene, working that to make sure everybody's where they're going to be, because they went in and got him in like less than 10 minutes. There was somebody did a breakdown. I shared it on the Quite Frankly official Instagram. I thought it was hilarious that the scene in episode 7 of Stranger Things where Will comes out as gay was longer than the extraction of Maduro. It was like a minute longer than Maduro's extraction. Just in and out. In and out. Good Lord. I don't know. There's a little bit of that. There's a little bit of that to chew on, and to hell with it. You know what? I want to bring Lauren Conlon in. Let's. I want to talk to Lauren because it's been a long time, and man, so many things have happened. There was a lot of things that happened over the course of the end of the year, and but now forget it. It's only a couple of days in, and we are swamped. Lauren Conlon's a podcaster, a reporter and host of Pop Culture and True Crime. You can find her on X, Twitter. Also, she spends a lot of time on Instagram, and you can find most of her own media published over on YouTube. But she does incredible work, and based in New York City. So especially when there's a big trial in town, my oh my, Lauren is there. And Lauren, welcome back.
Thank you. That was a nice intro. Do I spend a lot of time on Instagram?
Well,
kidding.
Yeah, listen.
I'm totally kidding.
You have to. You must. You must. And I mean, we're not even out of the first week of the year now, and the Southern District of New York has a Venezuelan president, or who some would say is not a president, just been plopped on their doorstep, freshly delivered by U.S. Special Forces. So I don't know where you want to start. Can you just set the scene for us down there in New York right now?
Sure. I mean, it was definitely out of a movie today. I actually was writing the movie in my head during the arraignment, but I got there a little bit early because I wanted to check out the protesters outside. And I pretty much got what I wanted captured on film, because it was a lot of white people that actually were handing out things like this. I don't know if you can see this. And they were holding up signs. It just says, condemn the U.S. bombing of Venezuela, free Nicolás Maduro and Celia Flores. And again, they were pretty much all white. And then there was a bit of a scuffle or an altercation with actual Venezuelan people who were like, what country are you from? We love President Trump. We support President Trump. And granted, there was probably 4 or 5 of them when I were there, but the majority were the white people protesting against it. So the NYPD actually had pretty amazing presence there, and they barricaded everything off. They had to separate these guys. They were very physical, but I would say there was a point where I was like, I probably should step out of here because it's getting a little crazy. And I did. But yeah, it was rough outside. I will say that much.
Well, I mean, I've been watching it there too, and this is the one thing that gets me. When you analyze this stuff geopolitically and you're looking for patterns that really set the tone for future iterations of operations like this, to see what you trust, what you don't trust, and who's benefiting the most here. The one thing I gotta say is, whereas I'm sure that there are Venezuelans who like Maduro and didn't want him out or whatever, I'm sure that there are Venezuelans who don't like Maduro and just didn't like the way that he was taken out. I understand all those things there, but largely what we're seeing on the internet is Venezuelans who are just so over the moon, happy and celebrating and full of hope that this could lead to something that is what many consider a spell broken. As far as the way that American liberals perceive any of this stuff, I mean, it's not. I don't expect.
It's funny that you say that. I wanted to make sure that it wasn't just my feed, because I do have a very specific feed that possibly leans one way. So I was thinking, I have quite a few burner accounts. So I'm like, let me go on my burners and just check out and make sure that I'm seeing the same thing, which again is the people of Venezuela telling their stories of why they are so happy that his reign hopefully is over. And again, they all had pretty tough stories to tell about a family member, about themselves, whatever. And there actually was a guy outside of court today. His name is Pedro Rojas, I believe. He's 33 years old. He basically yelled at Maduro when he was walking out of court, or, into another room out of the courtroom. He yelled that he was, I think he said like illegitimate or something like that. And it turns out he was jailed by Maduro, I think years prior, allegedly because he was trying to kill him, or this is what Maduro thought. I don't know all the details, but this guy was very, very outspoken. But if you want to talk about what went on inside, inside the courthouse, that is when I was like, this is totally going to be a movie, because I go to arraignments all the time. They're so boring. The defendants don't really talk. It's like, you enter a plea, whatever.
You were in the room.
So I was in overflow.
Okay.
I was in, I did not get up early enough, unfortunately, for that. But I had pretty much the front row seat in front of this screen, which some people, by the way, and I didn't experience this because I was in the courtroom for Diddy, but some people have said that they think overflow is better because you see the back of people's heads a lot. I had a fine experience there, I will say. But the judge was essentially just going through his spiel, and you're just supposed to sort of stand up, and he says, "Is your name Nicolás Maduro?" And Maduro stands up, and you can tell he's definitely a leader. He's a big guy. He's broad shoulders. He's very confident. And he just starts talking in Spanish, clearly a lot more than a yes or no. Like, yes, that's my name, or no, that's not my name. And I was like, what's going on? And obviously I don't speak fluent Spanish. So we had to wait for the translator. And then she comes out and he says, "I am Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro. I have been kidnapped and captured from my home on January 3rd. I am a war prisoner." He starts going off, and the judge, who's like 90 years old, he's like, okay, it's cool. We just wanted your name. This is not really what goes on here. You don't have to do that. And so he's like, oh, okay. And then another very notable moment, in my opinion, was when he told Maduro his rights, so to speak. Like, you have the right to attorney. If you cannot afford one, we will appoint it to you. You don't have to speak now, because whatever you say now can be held against you. Like, do you understand? Are you aware of this? And Maduro was kind of like, oh, he was like, no, I wasn't aware of all of my rights until you just told me. He just had no idea that he would have any type of rights whatsoever, which I found to be super interesting. I noticed he didn't look at his wife, really. They were sitting sort of adjacent to each other. She was looking at him a few times. He didn't really seem to look over at her. He was taking notes the entire time. She was taking no notes. They had headphones on because of the translator. Towards the end,
she was arraigned as well. I heard that she's part of the indictment.
Yes,
okay.
She was also arraigned. And yes, so, and I was going to get to this, but their son he's a named defendant as well on the indictment. Allegedly, I even posted this on Twitter. He put this video out yesterday. And it wasn't until very late at night, but I had heard from a couple people close to the case that he was quote unquote missing. I don't know what missing technically means. Like, he hadn't been seen out. he hadn't been seen anywhere. And then he was on video and he was, again, it was all in Spanish, but he was saying things like, history will soon reveal who the real traitors are. And I don't necessarily, this is complete speculation, but someone mentioned to me they thought there was a small chance that he could be speaking to the government, but I don't have proof of that at all. So.
There's so many theories abound about that as well, as whether or not this was. But from what you have seen, from you, the body language that you were able to analyze today, the tone of voice and everything else like that, Nicolás Maduro did not seem like a person who was playing his part in a role. This was a man who was arrested. He doesn't want to be there. That this is not a plan that he's a part of willingly.
No, I would say no because Barry Pollock, I'm sure you saw, was apparently appointed this morning. So Pollock was the attorney for Julian Assange and the WikiLeaks guy. And I had a source yesterday that told me they were at the MDC and they saw a bunch of like kind of retarded seeming lawyers, like public defenders trying to fill out paperwork. So he didn't have a lawyer yesterday. He was kind of scrambling, didn't really know what was going on. And again, as of this morning, all of a sudden he's got Barry Pollock, and Barry Pollock brings up in court towards the end. He said, I'm just looking at my notes because we can't have phones in there. He said something like, oh, he wanted to discuss with the prosecutors. He wanted to discuss the payment or the basically like there's something that they have to go through to try to get payment, and this is because I'm assuming that his assets and money is currently frozen. So Pollock brought that up, that they wanted to discuss this with the prosecutors, and they're like, okay, yeah, no problem, we'll make a note of that. So I don't know if he was in on it, wouldn't he just say, yeah, I'm using a public defender because I have no money? Or I guess this could all be part of the process, hire a super expensive lawyer because money's not an issue, right?
Right.
And the forfeitures, by the way, on the indictment, totally open cap for that, which is interesting. So they're not holding back at all.
Well, let me ask you about this, about the indictment. Then I want to ask you just a couple, maybe like one or two broad questions about New York City and the first couple of days of the Mamdani mayoral reign. But when I was reading the indictment earlier on today, just to see what the actual charges were, and of course, the thing I'm looking for in particular was anything that had a reference to elections, election fraud, election theft, whether it be the espionage or anything that had to do with being able to access backdoors into any kind of voting machines that had network access. There was a lot of that was going around in 2020, and
you didn't find that, did you?
Didn't find that, and so as far as your sources go, did anybody say anything about this being like a first phase, and that there was going to be a whole new category of charges coming later? Because I mean, the messaging we're getting from the White House is that this has a lot to do with the security of elections, from an actual, we're talking mechanical security of elections. So I just wonder if your sources have anything on what has not been written in this indictment.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, in my opinion, I'm not a lawyer, but I thought this indictment was pretty sloppy and pretty bare bones, and it really reads like a cartel indictment. I mean, that's all it pretty much read to me. But that being said, I mean, there's always superseding indictments. They can always add charges at any time. So yeah, that could be on the table depending on who they are talking to right now. But no, essentially it's all, narco-terrorism, cocaine conspiracy, the explosives conspiracy, everything having to do with using planes, Venezuelan planes to come to the United States and bring this cocaine. And they're accusing Celia Flores of getting kickbacks and also ordering hits out on people herself. And I believe actually they're the current leader of the Tren de Aragua gang, who is named on this indictment, I think he's actually currently in custody in Venezuela. I have to double check on that, but I am just really curious again why nobody is talking about his son. I'm just like, do we all not care where this guy is, because he seems like a pretty important piece of the puzzle here.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. I just wanted to get listen, this is just day one, so
Yeah.
I would love to check in with you a little bit more frequently on this. But from other news, as far as the city at large goes, I mean, first few days of Mayor Mamdani, what are you taking note of right now? Because all we are taking note of, all I'm taking note of, is every day there's an announcement of a new pick for a different office and a different type of set of responsibilities, and
I know.
they're all monsters.
Listen, without getting too much into it, I'm so disappointed in my fellow New Yorkers. I can't believe this is real. However, I'm trying to stay positive, and I'm trying to look beyond the headlines, Frank. I'm trying to look beyond the clips, because if I just go on these clips where this woman, I think, what did they call her? It was something to do with housing or something, but they're saying, she's like, oh, this will really affect white people.
Yes.
I'm like, please, what is her role? I don't even remember.
But man, I actually was going to, I had her up over here somewhere. Yeah, no, it's bad.
I feel like I need to look. I'm like, all right, somebody let me find the entire clip here, because it has to be more than this. This cannot be what I think it is. That being said, it's obviously the first week that he is in office, so he can't destroy us too badly yet, right? I mean, it was kind of funny to see the subway fare hikes. I'm a reasonable person. I obviously know that, we can't have free rides, right? Like the first week he's in office, but it was just so freaking ironic to see the subway hikes. I'm just like, what? And then today, going down to the courthouse, it dawned on me. I was like, this retard wants to defund the police, and I'm going down to a pretty crazy situation. Again, he can't do it that quickly, thankfully, because the police presence was pretty amazing. But no, I'm nervous. My kids go to public school. I know that he wants to take, I think it was something like $650,000 from the public school so people can jump turnstiles legally, basically. It's infuriating to me. And the other thing I thought he was appointing Miss Rachel, like the kid. Did you hear about this too? Like
no.
His like actual mentor was like the children's like YouTuber or something.
Well,
I mean, it's
that's the level of intellect the average adult socialist is working with anyway. So I mean, I don't know. I understand children why they would gravitate towards socialism, but an adult, Miss Rachel sounds like a great advisor for him. What about you're talking about before we go about where the other conflicts in the city could actually be. We saw this ridiculous appointment for the FDNY chief, but with the hands-off approach to policing, where he's more so wants to police the police than actually address crime, it's going to be so much worse than under even Adams. What are your contacts at the NYPD saying?
I mean, they're not happy, but I think that what's going to happen is this guy is completely out of his league. He has no idea what he's getting into. And I think, slowly but surely he'll realize that, or at least I'm hoping so, because we are clearly entering a time where, again, police presence is needed. You got to have that briefing. You got to have that briefing every day. I mean, I find it so jarring and so shocking that we are now under this 34-year-old man who has never had a real job in his life. And I hate, I just can't believe that the people that voted for him couldn't see his privilege, or they it's crazy to me. He has no clue, zero clue. And I'm being very general right now, but I just think it's way too early. But I'm nervous, Frank. I don't like this. I don't like this feeling at all.
I get you. I get you, Lauren. Well, listen, I know that you have deadlines. You're a syndicated writer. You do so many things. You're never not working on something. So thank you for the 15 minutes. I'd love to have you on again soon. Everybody, Conlon_Lauren on X. And then, of course, you go over there. There's the link tree. It'll bring you to her YouTube and everything else. Follow her. She's great and always working and very easy to get in touch with. So thank you for everything, Lauren. Is there anything else you want to leave us with that I didn't ask already?
I said this before. I thought this was a really good scoop that I got today from somebody. The Nike sweatsuit that he was wearing, it wasn't his. The DEA gave it to him to wear. He was changing all these outfits so he wouldn't get pew-pewed on the way. So apparently they gave him this sweatsuit to wear. It's like a $200-something sweatsuit.
I thought you were going to say that it was Diddy's or something like that.
No, wait, you didn't think that was a good scoop? Come on, I thought that was a good scoop.
No, it is a good scoop. I thought that, I just thought that there was going to be, and guess whose it was. So
wait, can you imagine they reuse defendant like sweatsuits?
Why not?
This one's got some baby oil stains, but you know what? It'll do. It's fine.
I know the poisoned baby oil. It wasn't enough. Yeah. All right. Well.
Oh, right. The baby oil with GHB in it that we never saw. Right?
I know. That's something else. I wanted to have you on to talk about that. I watched the documentary on Netflix. It was illuminating from a pop culture perspective, because I just wanted to relive my childhood and get some adult perspective on what was happening on his rise and fall and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. But other than that, I knew it wasn't going to go much deeper than, him being a rich monster. It isolated one person with, voracious appetites and all that other stuff. And not that he was, you have to be plugged like Epstein. You can't live that life and not be plugged into a larger network. So
totally. But one thing I want to say about that documentary is Lil Rod Jones, for example, he was in the last episode. He was alleging that he was raped by Diddy. He alleged this shooting in 2022 that occurred with Diddy's son. I don't know if you remember all this. He's got all this stuff to say. He has an open civil suit out right now, and he also spoke to the government first. But guess what, Frank? The government never called him. They never, ever called him to the stand. They never used that shooting that he mentioned as a predicate racketeering act or anything like that. So, I mean, think about that for yourself. Why?
I know.
Why?
Okay.
But you know what he was good for? He was good for an entertaining documentary. So it sucks. I am not trying to help Diddy out. I am literally not. He is clearly not a good guy, but it's like you have to think about it. Like, you can't have these one-sided stories. You just can't. It's like it's crazy to me that you only hear one side. I don't like that. I wouldn't like that if that was me. I would want, the other side told. So
well, you know what? You're rising in the ranks. One day you'll be able to point and click and get your own documentaries done. You'll see. You'll see. It'll happen. Anyway, thank you for the time. We'll do this again soon. Happy New Year to you and the family.
Thank you. You too. Happy New Year. Bye, guys.
Lauren Conlon, everybody. Go and check her out. Okay, let's see. The lines are going to be open. 914-200-0269. In the meantime, I think we actually might even get a call from Zach, Red Pill 78, at the bottom of the hour. I'll be looking out for that one. It'll only be an audio call because Zach threw his back out, which is not funny. It's not funny at all because I've thrown my back out too, and that sucks. But I could just see Zach laying down flat and just not moving because every deep breath at that point sucks. I get it. Bad thing is that with the spasm, you have to move. You have to find a way to move. And we'll be on the lookout for that. But in the meantime, it's you and I. And I'm going to throw some things up on the screen. Let's see here. You want a little bit of a throwback? 914-200-0269. You want a little bit of a throwback? Let's go to 2020. And this was Sidney Powell over on Lou Dobbs.
Can hardly wait to put forth all the evidence we have collected on Dominion, starting with the fact it was created to produce altered voting results in Venezuela, for Hugo Chavez and then shipped internationally to manipulate votes for purchase in other countries, including this one. It was funded by money from Venezuela and Cuba, and China has a role in it also. We have staggering statistical evidence. We have staggering testimony from witnesses, including one who was personally in briefings when all of this was discussed and planned, beginning with Hugo Chavez and how it was designed there, and then saw it happening in this country. As soon as the state shut down on election night and stopped counting, those are the states where the most egregious problems occurred. We also need to look at, and we're beginning to collect evidence on the financial interests of some of the governors and secretaries of state who actually bought into the Dominion systems.
Yeah. Well, we'll see if it goes there. I sure hope so. And that carrot has already been dangled. That carrot's been dangled. Okay? Here's a little bit more. This is Marco Rubio. This was taken and isolated by Memology 101 on YouTube. And I think it speaks directly to what you would have to say is the Monroe Doctrine angle to why all this was done. It's a couple of minutes, but listen to this. NBC.
Is the United States now at war with Venezuela?
There's not a war. I mean, we are at war against drug trafficking organizations. It's not a war against Venezuela. We are enforcing American laws with regards to oil sanctions. We have sanctioned entities. We go to court. We get a warrant. We seize those boats with oil, and that will continue.
Fuck yeah!
So clear, and we would continue to reserve the right to take strikes against drug boats that are bringing drugs towards the United States that are being operated by transnational criminal organizations, including the Cartel de los Sols. Of course, the leader of that cartel, is now in U.S. custody and facing U.S. justice in the Southern District of New York, and that's Nicolás Maduro. So we made a big progress in that regard.
What exactly does Rodriguez need to do to keep U.S. troops out of Venezuela?
Well, forget about the U.S. troops portion of it. What needs to happen for any of this to change, for our relations with Venezuela to change and our whole approach to it to change, the things we have talked about are the ones I've highlighted already. You can't flood this country with gang members. You can't flood this country with drugs that are coming out of Colombia through Venezuela with the cooperation of elements of your security forces. You can't turn Venezuela into the operating hub for Iran, for Russia, for Hezbollah, for China, for the Cuban intelligence agents that control that country. That cannot continue. Those things cannot continue to be in place. You cannot continue to have the largest oil reserves, in the world under the control of adversaries of the United States, not benefiting the people of Venezuela and stolen by a handful of oligarchs around the world, including inside of Venezuela, but not benefiting the people of that country. We've seen how our adversaries all over the world are exploiting and extracting resources from Africa, from every other continent. They're not going to do it in the Western Hemisphere. Yeah. They are not. That is not going to happen under President Trump. Read our national security strategy. He is serious about it, and he's going to do something about it, and we're doing something about it.
So that is a not in the Western Hemisphere. That's why people have been, hey, this is Monroe Doctrine right here. It's just 21st century doubling and tripling down. And I just wonder. I wonder what you guys and gals think. 914-200-0269, 914-200-0269. Here's one of those New York nitwits. Nate Friedman was on the scene and wanted to talk to one of the libs that were protesting against this act.
You should check out that communist flag over there.
What brings you out here today?
I'm organized with the Revolutionary Communists of America. We're out here to say hands off Venezuela, and we unequivocally stand with the people of Venezuela against U.S. imperialism.
What a waste. Revolutionary Communists of America. Look at this little fuck. This just so. This was probably somebody's only child, and what a waste.
Aggression.
What do you think about the people of Venezuela celebrating on the streets? What do you think about the people of Venezuela celebrating on the streets today?
I saw images of Venezuelans being bombed after the U.S. bombed Caracas. So I'm not sure what you're talking about, but yeah, I think you should definitely
show me the bombings that you're talking about. I didn't see any.
I don't know. I just saw it on Reddit. It was on the front page of.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Reddit. Let's. Welcome to the show, Frank Zell. How you doing, man?
Hey, Frank. Happy New Year, my man.
Happy New Year to you. I feel like every first week of the year is one hell of a tell for what the hell's coming our way. You and I.
Hey, hold on 1 second while I add my brother.
Oh, we got both of them.
Jim, I'm here. Frank. All right.
Jim?
The whole gang's here. Yes, sir. Hey, Frank.
Wow. It's first time 2026. It's good to have the Zells on with me right here on the first show of the year.
Hey, glad to be here.
Well, first of all, before we get started, because we only have definitely at the end of the bottom of the hour, we gotta cut out because I think Zach from Red Pill might be calling in. I want to just leave you guys room to talk. But how was your holidays?
It was good.
Good.
Yeah, it was all right.
With family, it was good.
Christmas is all right.
Yeah. We had enjoyed. My daughter came up from North Carolina visiting, and which was nice. So
good. Well, I'm happy to hear it. And Frank, you like your new digs?
Yeah, man. Loving Cincinnati, man. New York sucks. New Jersey sucks. It sucks. I just left there, man. I had to go back, and I'm driving home now. Dude, I don't know what the hell I was thinking all these years.
I know.
Tell Lauren Conlon, get the hell out of there.
I know. I mean, I'm outside the immediate blast radius, but she's right in the center of it all. I couldn't imagine sending Aurora to a New York City public school. I can't imagine. But oof. I know. But okay, so let's just jump to it. How are you guys reading the tea leaves with Venezuela and what this opens up for 2026? Are you just go for it? Because like I said, around the bottom of the hour, we're going to get another call.
All right. So, well, I messaged you the other day, Frank, and I told you we were going in. I mean, it was so obvious. Once the Russians started removing, Russians and their families in Venezuela, you knew we were going to go in there. I didn't know that we were going to go do the another Panama, which is there's no difference. We in '89 we went into Panama. At least it took longer than a lunch hour to get Noriega. He hid out in a church, and we had to blast some music until he gave up. But
Guns N' Roses, I think.
Yeah, whatever they were playing.
That got him.
But we brought him back to the States and threw him in jail for like 30 or 40 years. But that was because there was a whole history to that. We whacked the president before Noriega. We installed Noriega. Noriega was the middleman with the Contras and the drugs. And then when he tried to cut us out, we weren't going to have that. So we removed him, and then we installed three dictators, like this three-man figurehead. And we did, we committed terrible atrocities against the Panamanian people, and that's that. But
Frank, I like that's one thing that has come up on this show, and you guys have called in before. We've done that a few times when we were discussing how the world works as far as the drug trade goes, that if you are operating in a significant manner, you're not allowed to do that without our blessing. Like that, and Noriega was one of those people that we had brought up many times, that he had to be removed because we weren't getting our cut anymore of the business that we had blessed him with.
Yeah, they disguised it as it was the Panamanian the military was having friction with our soldiers there, and then a couple of them got shot. But the whole thing was that Noriega tried to cut us out, and he had to. We got him in there. He was our guy for years. Everything was fine until he tried to cut us out. Hey, look, I mean, the drug thing is a front story, right? I mean, how come we haven't gone into Colombia? Those guys have been dealing cocaine on such a ridiculous level since they first found the coca leaf. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
How come we haven't arrested every Colombian president? How come we haven't arrested every Mexican president for the last several decades? You know, who are linked to the cartels. So it's a cover story. You know, it's like the front story. It's multi-layered. There's a lot of things.
Yeah, exactly right. This is this is not just, you know, a cookie cutter, one size fits all operation. It's multiple levels to this, and you know, hegemony is a big one. It's like, you know, like he said, the Don Rowe doctrine. You know, that, you know, we're going to control this side of the hemisphere. You know, that's part of it. That's a huge part of it. You know, that we're going to dominate this side. No more of having any, you know, foreign interests right near our borders or in this hemisphere at all, playing a part. You know, Russia, China, Cuba. What's interesting to me is that this could, you know, it could very well, you know, Trump could have his moment where you have another regime fall, which could be Cuba. Cuba could collapse, which, you know, and no longer be a communistic country because of this.
Well, that's already been telegraphed. I had this,
which would be a huge feather in his cap, you know, for that. You know, Cubans would want to go back to Cuba, you know, and rebuild. And, you know, it's a beautiful place. It's just a terrible government. And, you know, I think that place is going down within Trump's term.
Okay, so then let me ask you this, because I mean, you guys have had some flexibility on some issues that I thought you might have been rigid on in other times. And when I see Donald Trump standing next to a giddy Lindsey Graham saying that Cuba is ready to fall, and Lindsey is kind of like hopping up and down like a little piglet, and you know, you think about Venezuela, and you know, saber rattling with Venezuela was one of the reasons why we didn't want, you know, there was no fast enough way to get John Bolton out of the administration back in 2018 and 19, because, you know, like, what the hell is this? He's trying to get us involved with Venezuela over there. So now we got Venezuela, we have Cuba on the brink. That's what he says. And, you know, I would love to see, a lot of people would love to see Cuba and Venezuela, you know, unleashed, you know, of course we want to see the Venezuelan and Cuban people unleash it themselves, of course. And who are we to unleash anyone when we are so collared and leashed as well? So, you know, we have this opening from A Bug's Life as an intro for this show, and a lot of people get reminders at the beginning of the show how, you know, the ants outnumber the grasshoppers 100-1, but it's not easy to flip that switch. It really isn't. And it's not a game of attrition here. There's a lot that goes into it, and there's just things that are learned generationally for the little people who are living under these governments. So where are you guys on where are you guys with the actual act of being liberators, whether there's an ulterior motive or not? I mean, Venezuelans are over the moon happy right now. And
I'll tell you what, Frank, it's like, you know, look, you want to argue the constitutionality of it. Presidents have been breaking, you know, and, you know, exerting their will against the Constitution for decades now. So it's not even an argument of whether the president had the right to do this. It's going to happen over and over and over again. Whether this is going to be objectively good for the Venezuelan people, you know, then I'm for it. If it's going to benefit them, and it's not a high bar to reach, by the way, that if this move benefits the people as a whole over there, and I think our country is actually taking the Putin model of being a benign hegemon, where basically you control your whole hemisphere, but it's not just your own self-interest anymore. You're going to try to benefit the interests of the people within your sphere. And so if they, like he said, we're going to run it and we're going to try to build them up, and hopefully the people in Venezuela will take it. This is not like an Iraq situation that people have been comparing it to. I think it's totally different because we didn't destroy the entire infrastructure. We didn't destroy their military. We didn't tear down the government like we did in Iraq. That's all in place in Venezuela.
Yeah, but Jim, see, this is where we slightly disagree. But it's not our job to do it, man.
Frank, but you know what though? It's like
it's not our job.
But you know what?
It's not our job.
Whether it's not our job or not, presidents have been doing it for decades.
I understand that. So why not? Why not just go into every country?
The question is, Frank, do I agree with the move? Do I think it's a positive for the Venezuelan people? I think it's a positive.
Well, of course it's
okay,
a positive,
that's the question.
But it's still it's a positive for the Venezuelan people. Of course it is. But now, you know what? Go to every country that has a terrible ruler and save the people in every country. Go to Africa and wipe out and bring them here. Bring them to New York and put them on trial. You know what I mean? You can't. Now, I understand this is not the world we live in. But
Frank, it's not the world we live in also, and this is also a huge power play because this shift, this control, instead of being price takers in the oil market, we're now price makers.
Well,
I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying this. He also shifted the entire outlook on who's controlling oil.
Let's
around
agree
the
on
world.
This point. Let's agree on this point. The Venezuelan people on the list of the good things that are going to, that we're going to take from this action is at the bottom of the list. We just took 1/5 of the world's oil reserves. 1/5, 20% more than Saudi Arabia is now ours. And you gotta love Trump. Hey, who's going to run it? We are. We're now in the oil business. We took 20%, and then of course how it affects China. China buys 70% of their oil from Venezuela, so that ball game's over. But then, but also, it's what happened in the 2020 election. Venezuela was tied in with that.
Well, Frank,
smart man.
Frank,
it's multi-level.
Sorry, Frank.
No, if I can jump in because I you guys going at it was great, and I like that. I like that you're both speaking for a lot of people in the audience, because I'm sure there's a lot of split here, and there's a lot of split inside of me in general. If all this was, and that's what I'm saying, if all this becomes is just, well, we got oil, and we're also going to take an opportunity to make Venezuela a better place for people to repatriate and to go. You can say there's objective good there, but there's also piracy essentially in one respect or another. Now, if oil just becomes the spoils of war over something that what I believe is a huge act of war, if there really is a bona fide link and a case to be made airtight that past elections in the United States were tampered with in real time, remotely in this satellite location of Venezuela and other places, if that is brought to the fore as it is being indicated right now, then I would be okay with what would happen here, because that's an act of war. You're talking about
correct.
You're talking about drug related offenses that are in some way tied to a regime somewhere in a foreign country. Okay, that's what business they're in. Then make sure that your border is nice and tight, and blow up any boats that are crossing international barriers and into your waters, and you're on with your day. But if we're talking about elections, I mean that's the dinner bell for me. That's what makes all this worth it.
And this is what me and my brother have been going back and forth on. Look, Maduro took over 2013. Look, they've been involved with drugs. Hugo was doing it. Maduro just was doing what they've always done, right? When Trump took office, right? He didn't go after him 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019. He was still shipping drugs into the country. Those boats were making the runs. I didn't see any boats blowing up. What line did they cross?
I'll tell you what line they crossed. They crossed selling oil in yuan. They took it off. They took it off the petrodollar, and they were circumventing the dollar for oil. That's the line that usually once you cross that, it's over. The dollar, you cannot cross. The dollar must reign supreme with oil.
And I will say it was the 2020 elections. And what Frank said is correct. If they were involved in that, then it is an act of war. That element doing that,
I think that plays. I think it's a major part. And I think it's a major part of it. But I think the end game is the petrodollar.
Do you think they didn't that they set this up right now, 9 months, 10 months out from the 2026 elections?
Oh no, I'm not saying the timing of this may very well be for that. But you got to remember, we took them off. The sanctions kicked in 2019 or 2017.
Let's stick on. Let's
no. But what I'm saying is the original harsh sanctions kicked in 20. Hold on, Frank. The harsh sanctions kicked in during like around 2017, 2018. That had to do with the petrodollar. And when they got kicked off the SWIFT, that was a crushing economic sanctions. That actually hurt the Venezuelan people. I'm not a fan of sanctions because sanctions very rarely help the people on the ground. It's to cause pain.
Put the sanctions aside, though. This move, you have the 2026 elections coming up.
Yes.
This is going to be another biggest election of our lifetime. Right? If Trump wants to continue, having, control and doesn't want to face impeachment hearings, every other week, if Venezuela, if that element, if you can remove it, that was tied to Smartmatic and the ability to flip any kind of vote. They've been flipping votes via these machines. It's been going on decades. People have just woken up to this. We've gone over the Collier brothers and vote scam. They wrote a book about it. They wrote a book about it in the 90s.
Oh, I remember that. That was great. I think it was a July 3rd, 1996 broadcast of Coast to Coast. We were listening to what's his name, Collier. He did a vote rigging episode. And I love listening to that. I've listened to that episode a couple of times. We put it on After Hours too, because I think what was most valuable is just listening to people's level of disbelief. That when nobody would. He said, "No, this would be. It's too much for me to swallow. That we live in a country this dishonest that we can't trust our elections." And this guy is laying out everything that we now just know is so commonplace, and he was 30 years ahead of us where we are right now in the severity of it all. And you have to imagine that the technology has only gotten better. And what it really came down to was back in 1996, he said, here's what it is. It's not hard to even stuff ballots with paper ballots, but if you are not using paper ballots, you can't trust your elections at all.
Correct. That's pretty straightforward.
And he was right. And then once you had these systems created, Diebold, right? It was flipping the elections against the Democrats. Republicans were benefiting. And then you had the company switches, right? Then you had Smartmatic, then you had Sequoia, then you have Dominion. And then maybe they upgraded the system and then they started test running it. The Philippines goes down, right? Republicans all of a sudden, or the conservatives knocked out. Then they try it in Canada. All the conservatives get wiped out. And then who was up next was us. They flipped it. And in every country, the same thing happened.
That's it.
You had a stoppage, and then all of a sudden, everything just flipped on its head.
Well, guys,
it's the system.
Yeah, well, listen.
I'm sorry.
No. Don't apologize. It's great to hear you guys. I'm glad we got to get 20 minutes in. I want to have you back on soon because obviously this is only going to develop, and we're only going to see whether our biggest hopes or fears are being found. What is going to be most confirmed. And before we go, give everybody very quick shout out for the new year and everything that you're hoping that we get out of it.
Jim? Well, for us, 2026 is a big year. It's, the Ramsey case is going to come to a head for us. Where our project should be released near the end of the year, and we hope it's a success. We're pretty positive about it. Okay, stop calling it a project. It's going to be a book. 2 years in the making. So, hopefully you can have us on down the line and
Absolutely.
We can talk about it in details. And then we may be discussing a little business with you sometime in the middle of the year, but I'll touch base with you, via direct message on that.
Oh, any time. As long as it gets you guys in the studio finally, that would be awesome.
Oh. Hey man, you can always use the book for your book club. In 2027, you know what
absolutely,
I mean?
Absolutely. I would love it. In fact, we have a book club. We have a book club session 1 tonight when this ends at 9:00. But for now, we got to take a couple more calls. And thank you guys for the company.
Hey Frank.
All right, Frank.
Yep. Thanks for letting us on. One more thing, if people are interested, check out John Mearsheimer. Is going to be talking geopower politics tomorrow on Venezuela.
Okay.
Highly recommend it. Tremendous.
All right, sounds good.
John,
send me a link, and what I'll do, I'll drop it into the Telegram and elsewhere.
Okay.
All right, Frank. Thanks for having us on, man.
Thanks, buddy.
Frank.
Take care. Yeah, it's called Vote Scams and Irregularities. I don't know where the hell it is right now, but it was on July 3rd, 1996, hosted by Art Bell. The guest was James Collier. James Collier. So yeah. That's the one we got here. All right. What else do we have? Real quick before we get another call in. To every Venezuelan cheering right now, you do not here. Take a listen. Take a look. This is great. This is wonderful stuff.
To every Venezuelan cheering right now, you do not want to be controlled by the United States. They will drain you of all your resources and then leave you in a worse state than you are right now.
First of all, when you have a schnoz that big, you either need to get a bigger nose ring or you need to get some rhinoplasty. It's done. It's over with.
So under a dictatorship. And now we are in charge of your country. United States citizens don't even want to be in this country anymore.
Well, listen, that's a whole part here. We want you. You should leave. You should leave. I have to imagine that you don't want to be here. I would like you to go. Would really like you to go. That'd be wonderful. I don't know. And these people are also so obsessed with privilege. Imagine the privilege of not yet understanding the true impact of socialism. To be coasting off of the fumes of what was created generations ago. Hold on a second. Oh, shit. I'm sorry, man. I gave you the wrong number, LOL. 914-200-0269. I gave Zach the wrong number. He's like, it's not working. Call failed. Yeah, I'm sorry. Sorry, Zach. We'll see. We'll see now. U.S. citizens are scared.
We want a revolution from our own country. The only reason we've taken over your country is to steal all your oil and resources and leave you as impoverished as possible because we're an imperial empire.
Oh, what a gross. Whoever parents, come claim your creation. You failed. This one needs to be recycled. Get her in the basement with sloth. Feed her roasted vegetables or something like that, chain her to a wall, add her to the no rights list. I want them all on the no rights list. My list is getting so long. So very long. Okay. Well, welcome to the show. Is this Zach?
Yes, this is Zach. What's up, Frank?
Guys, this is Red Pill 78. We've spent so much time on the air over the last however many years now that we've been doing Taking It Back together, but I can't remember the last time we've heard your voice on, quite frankly. It's probably an election night sometime.
I think you're right. It's been several years.
Well, welcome. I hope all your broadcasts for this evening was great. Without getting dragging this out and taking you away from precious sleep, I want to hear what you have to think, what your big reading of the tea leaves are of this weekend's raid and what comes next. I've already stated and restated my thoughts tonight, and I want to hear yours. What's your big hopes?
I think that the raid on Maduro's compound and the actions in Venezuela, I think that was an extraction. And I think that Maduro likely was not in control of Venezuela. I think that he was a figurehead and he was placed there to be the public face of the nation of Venezuela. And the things that were taking place behind the scenes were not necessarily based on decisions that he was making. But he would have full knowledge of all of the narco trafficking operations and perhaps figures in the United States and global figures that would have been involved in that stuff. And I would imagine that he's turning state's witness. I mean, take a look at all of the strange stuff that was happening, during his trip here from Venezuela. When he did like 4 or 5 wardrobe changes, that was pretty weird. The pictures that were going around of him, just like walking into New York, getting taken for a flyby of the the Statue of Liberty. I mean, it was a very different type of treatment than you would receive if you were a wanted criminal that was going to be given the ass end of the U.S. legal system. I thought so. Go ahead.
He was given a helicopter tour of Manhattan, Liberty Island.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was.
I'll tell you, man. If you were charged with keeping a person safe, the last thing I would do is give them one of those helicopter tours. They are. I don't know that those helicopters make me very, very nervous. And
I agree with you. And I also don't think that you would take him for an open air tour of Brooklyn in an armored vehicle with all of the doors open so everybody can take a look and see what's going on inside that vehicle. That was super weird too.
So, but that's really, see, this is interesting because I was saying to myself, and I asked a correspondent we just had on the show who was actually down there at the courthouse today. And I asked her in particular, did this man, his body language, anything indicate that he was anyone other than a person who had been, I use the word extracted too, but not as an asset who's turning state's witness, as a person who did not want to be there, who was ripped out of their beds and is about to face justice. Now, whether or not he starts taking deals and he gives up all of his associates and things start crumbling down is another issue altogether. But you think that there is a higher level of cooperation going on here?
Yeah, that's what I think. Do you know about his wife? I mean, his wife was charged along with him. Okay, but when Maduro met his wife, she was already a close confidant of Hugo Chavez. She was already a top lawyer in Venezuela. She had a lot of power. Maduro was a bus driver, and he had no formal education. He wasn't like a political power player or anything like that. He meets this woman. She kind of lifts him out of obscurity. They're both in relationships. She's got 3 kids. He's got 1 kid. She and Maduro both end up joining the state assembly. And she was instrumental in getting Hugo Chavez released from prison after a failed coup attempt. And then once she got him out of prison, and she brings Maduro into politics, it was only then that Chavez chose him as his successor. But it was her that was always close to Chavez and was instrumental in helping him maintain some level of power and prestige. And if you also saw this today in the courtroom, it was her that was apparently banged up. Like, she appeared to have injuries, like on her head. They said that maybe she had some broken ribs or something like that. But Maduro didn't look like he put up any kind of a fight when they came and arrested them. He might have said, I'm the leader of Venezuela, I'm a political prisoner, or I'm a prisoner of war, whatever it was that he said. But it was her that seems like she didn't want to be taken. He didn't seem to put up a fight in the same way that she did. I thought that was really interesting, given the history that they had together and her having the original proximity to Hugo Chavez. Which also makes me think perhaps she was really the power in the relationship.
Another female handler.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Jeez. Now, I didn't hear anything about the rough. I haven't seen any court images, to be honest. I just got a little bit of reporting from a friend of ours, but I'm going to have to go check this out now.
Yeah.
On the flip side of that, I mean, it's just chaotic. How about some roundabout thoughts about everything else that's happening at the same time? There is also Minnesota, which of course it's the tip of a much larger 50-state iceberg. And however the iceberg presents itself and breaks the surface, then that's great. But obviously, there's going to be a big trickle-down effect of people going and digging into everything that's happening in their respective states. That's already started. Mm-hmm. Tim Walz is, leaving the campaign trail early. That's already been a consequence of this. Who knows what comes next? On the other side, there was a very strange attempt made on J.D. Vance's life, it's again, this has not been a very good year at all for the left. And I just hope that this is the beginning of pedal to the metal, boot to the throat, that they are actually made to, take on some consequences. How do you see 2026 wrapping up? Because the president needs to rack up some big time wins to make another 2 years of some options in Congress even possible come midterm time.
Mm-hmm. No, I totally agree with you. I mean, let's be honest, most people have a pretty short attention span in the modern age. People are, addicted to 15-second clips and easily digestible content. It was my opinion that 2026 was going to be, the point at which this really broke wide, because that makes it all the more prescient in the minds of the electorate when it comes to the midterms. And I mean, I think the only way that it breaks good is if all of this fraud and the criminality is really brought to the forefront around the time that it would be relevant for elections. Now, I also think that there's a tremendous amount of work that needs to be done in the election system. And I think that what's happening in Venezuela is going to tie directly into that as well. We're also seeing a lot of this fraud tied directly into the Act Blue scandal, which is also highly relevant when it comes to elections, because you've got a lot of people that, besides the smurfing, you've got a lot of daycare centers and people with Somali background, business owners that are not only daycare providers, but own transportation companies, own health aid companies. They're all donating to Democrat causes and Democrat candidates as well. And I mean, I'm sure that you've seen that state ministers in Somalia who also own businesses in Minnesota and Maine and are engaging in the exact same type of fraud. So, yeah, I mean, I think that 2026 is going to be huge in terms of bringing all of this stuff to the public. And the only way that it makes sense is for people to be brought to justice. I mean, people have got to be prosecuted. And a lot of this money has to be recovered, too. I mean, to show this level of movement at a time when people are really starting to think about, what do I want for my future here in the United States? It all has to come out. And it seems to me like it is coming out. It feels like it's accelerating. And, President Trump signaled earlier today that Tim Walz is not off the hook on this. I mean, it's interesting that Amy Klobuchar is the only candidate, is the most talked about candidate to be running for governor in the wake of Tim Walz dropping out. But I've also seen Keith Ellison floated, but he's tied directly into this Somali stuff as well. So I don't think that he could successfully run a campaign. I don't think it's a bad idea for him to be the candidate. The only thing that disappoints me about Tim Walz dropping out is that this isn't going to be a focal point of the election.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel good about it personally.
Well, I'm happy. I'm happy to hear it, and like we have a whole lot of opportunity ahead of us, and I hope that by Memorial Day we're doing a lot of I don't know, toasting of champagne. That would be great. Well, in the meantime, Zach, tell everybody what your broadcast schedule is and where they can find you. I know that you're back on YouTube. I can't tell you how cozy of a thing that is to see these days.
Yeah, pretty sweet. I am live Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern on Rumble, Pilled, Getter, X, YouTube, and even Kick. That's just kind of like a spillover, I guess. And then obviously I'm on Badlands tonight at 10:30. I'll be live with John on Baseless Conspiracies. On Wednesdays on Badlands, I am live at 9 with Brad for Altered State. And then Thursdays at 4 before my show at 5, I am on Taking It Back with you and Adel. And I think we're going to be coming back this Thursday for that. And then also Fridays at 10:30, I will drop in for Only Lands on Badlands as well. And then I got Saturdays and Sundays off.
Wow. You actually carved yourself out a day or two off. Good for you. Well, we hope that your back loosens up by the time 10:30 rolls around tonight, Zach. And thanks for chilling out for a few minutes.
Absolutely, brother. Thanks so much for having me. I'll talk to you soon.
Take care. There you go. Red Pill 78, everybody. Go and make friends. Hey, listen, wherever you are, because we're going to start wrapping up now. I have some reels. I want to get to your super chats. We'll do all that stuff right now. Wherever you are, hit the like button, comment, chat it up, roll call, an end of the day roll call. Let everybody know where you're from. Where are you watching from? A city, a state, a country, whatever the hell it is. Throw it out there. Let people know how far the reach is. This is so important. You cannot lurk. You cannot lurk. We've had a lot of people watch on YouTube, especially tonight. There should be hundreds more likes. It's been my fault not to be, I forgot to put it up on the screen several times tonight, but please, before you leave a like, leave some hype, whatever it is. Rumble, it's all the same rules because all of the major streaming platforms are playing by those anti-spam protocols that are really making it hard, especially on live streaming. Shorts, mid-range stuff that's a little bit looser, and but this, we're a live show, live broadcaster, and that's what I like. Got to lean into you guys in 2026, so make it happen. Let's do it. All right, let's see. Walter, let's see here. Walter, I'm sorry. Jesse, J. Sem says, excellent show. Thank you. Well, thank you, J. Sem. Jay Britt says, to the show, I have such a love-hate relationship. Here's the money. Lojek says, glad you're back, Frank. It's good to be back. Good to be back. Oh, man, Gunther became a member on YouTube, which is a legitimate way of sponsoring the show. There, Quite Frankly.tv on the sponsor section, there is Patreon and Subscribestar. If you want something else, like you want to become a pen pal of mine, you want some monthly Polaroids, you want a postcard, something like that. Hell, there's a lot of specialty tiers on Patreon and Subscribestar because that's where we can better manage inventory. But other than that, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Sign up. Please, Gunther, go onto the YouTube post section and see all of the members-only stuff there. There is members-only videos, and there's also the stream link for tonight's book club that's going to start in a couple of minutes. If you haven't read the book, it's okay. You can get caught up. All types of stuff. Especially the links to Sunday streams and to the video. I can't wait to do more film club this year. First thing we're going to be watching in February is Ready Player One, and then we're going to go into Drive. And I got so many other things added to the list over the weekend. Movies, we're going to watch so many good movies this year. So many good movies. Become a sponsor. That's where the good stuff is. I give so much to the sponsors. All right, let's see here. Joe Martinez, thank you. Genie Yankee fan says, "Oh, we are the ants." Boy, I sure hope so. Katie DeBakey, she said this a couple days ago, and I missed it, so I made a note to read it tonight. She said, "We need denaturalization and mass deportation. The children can stay if the parents give up all parental rights and can never return to the U.S. for any reason." The children can stay if the parents give up all parental rights and can never return to the U.S. for any reason. How's that work? We're keeping the kids. We're kicking the parents out. No, I think they should all go together. If I wasn't reading that wrong. I don't know. You have to give me a little bit of clarification on that. Let's see. Over on Rumble, Trisha QP Texas says, "Frank, did you give Zach your number?" I did. Flashy Wizard says, "I wish we'd all go after criminal politicians in our own country." I get you. If all there was to this story was we're going to be in control of Venezuela for a while, Nicolás Maduro was involved in drug trafficking, and we're going to take the oil that we seized, it's ours, and we're going to kill anybody that traffics drugs, then that's not good enough. That's not good enough at all. Everybody is run. I mean, what are we going to do? Bomb our own CIA tomorrow? Who are we going to extract out of Langley tomorrow? We want to talk about drug running? I mean, what do we get? I mean, come on. You know? So really, this is a single topic for me, and I am watching like a hawk where this goes with elections. Now, there's a lot of stuff that needs to be done on a state level to clean up elections. But as far as these bigger things that we've had caught the whiff of over the last few years, that's where my interests lie on all this, more than anything else. I'm sure we'll talk about this on Wednesday night on Matt Christensen's show too. Paulie9363 sends a ship. Twisted 6, thank you so much. Zach Payne was saying Maduro's wife has Hugo Chavez lead lawyer. Well, you know, obviously they're all connected. It's a generational thing there. And what Zach had just said, is she the Ghislaine Maxwell of the couple? The Sentinel says Operation Inherent Resolve, by all accounts, was masterfully executed with 0 American deaths and loss of material. Today, the UN held court. Hypocritical South American nations condemn U.S. actions. Here's another thing I would like to do. How about we get rid immediately of the UN? How about the UN gets evicted? These are great things that we could be doing right now. Leave NATO, evict the UN. You have X amount of time. You have 1 month to sell all the furniture, whatever the hell you want to do, put it on Groupon. I don't care what the hell you do. Get the fuck out of here. Get out. Get out. Get the UN out of here and get us out of the UN. Goodbye to NATO. Everybody do your thing. Yeah, we're very, very concerned with national security. That's why we're going to double down on our national security here at the border. We're going to take immigration very seriously. We're going to hollow out the middle of the country, and we're going to start arresting Marxists. Yeah, we're going to start arresting Marxists wherever they're committing crimes, because it's not just about sitting in a coffee house somewhere with a beret on and, you know, showing up for some spoken word, some poem readings, talking about utopia, snapping your fingers and having a macchiato. No, it's got to go. It's got to go. Boots are on the ground. They're taking action, and they are moving and diverting tens of billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. If you want to talk about the time spent, start arresting Marxists and start deporting their foot soldiers. Get the UN out, get us out of the UN, and leave NATO. Get the withdraw from the world for a little while. Doesn't mean we're not going to stop trading, anything like that. Do it. It would be incredible. So I know. I just get antsy. Let's see. Sentinel says Trinidad and Tobago, WTF, what the world, Godspeed, America first. Says, in the 80s, Grandpa told me that he was still pissed that the U.S. leadership had not followed through with making Europe pay us dollar for dollar for the cost of the Marshall Plan. Yeah, well, there was a lot more that we didn't have to. I mean, we didn't have to kill everybody in Dresden. We didn't have to burn Dresden to the ground. We did a lot of we did a lot of extra shit. We did a lot extra. But you're right. You're right. But that was really the end. Beginning of the end. All right, let's see. What else do we have here? Matt Morse said 2 things are immediate obvious. Trump has been patiently waiting for a chance to capture Maduro alive. And 2, Maduro's capture is effectively doomsday for the far left. In the very near future, we are going to see Maduro publicly admit to everything: election interference, narco-terrorism, migrant invasion, working with far left NGOs, all of it. This has been an incredibly premeditated play on Trump's part. Things are about to get very interesting. That's why I'm really interested about the Southern District of New York's role in all this stuff. Like, if it becomes way too politically damaging for their fellow travelers, what happens? Brendan Dilley. It's another one that I wish we can get on the show. Brendan says, I know who has been working on the election fraud since the day he got sworn into his job. Everyone involved is totally effed. Once he completes his investigation, no social media account, no post teasing, no leaks. Some men are just about their business. I say, go for it. I want to see the steamroller. I want to see the steamroller and the napalm. Steamrollers, napalm, wrecking balls. That's what we need. Good stuff. Very good stuff. All right, let's see. What else do we have here? What else do we have from you guys and gals before we leave? Anything else? No, I think that's good. That's good. Zoran Mamdani. Here we go. We have a couple minutes left. Take a listen to this. Oh, no, take a listen to this first. Here is a tenant director. Her name is Sia Weaver. Sia Weaver. She is a white as a ghost. I think she's Jewish. So not like white. I'm just talking about the skin. She's almost translucent. You can almost like see through her. Can almost see her skull. That's how see-through, how clear she is. She's talking about transitioning, and remember, this is all within the term of a New York City mayor. They're talking about things, some of the people that he is putting in place of like tenant direction and all that other stuff they're going so far beyond the pale here. They're talking about making alterations to the way that we view private property over the course of the next couple of years. Like, we're talking about major alterations to humankind. All right. But these are the people that we're dealing with constantly.
I think the reality is that for centuries, we've really treated property as an individualized good and not a collective good. And we are going to transitioning to treating it as a collective good and towards a model of shared equity will require that we think about it differently. And it will mean that families, especially white families, but some POC families who are homeowners as well,
right,
are going to have a different relationship to property than the one that we currently have.
Yeah. We're just going to have to do that. Just going to have to do that with all the up talking and every statement being a question. We're just going to have to do this. Is the evil, beady-eyed demons who would look over you as you're strapped to a gurney somewhere in a dungeon and will say, yeah, well, we're going to have to remove your nipples. Yeah, well, and then we'll talk about your toenails after that. We'll rip them out one by one. Yeah, you better do it. Better do it. Seriously, they are psychopaths. There's no real human emotion inside these people. They can't. You can't have human emotion and be a communist. You can't. Because you've completely disconnected yourself from everything that is human, especially ambition and the ability to go out there and make something of yourselves, not to go out there and make something of everybody else. That's ridiculous. The best of humanity is people going out there to make something of themselves in a community setting. That's wonderful. That's nice. But these are stupid people. And the stupidity mixed with what they believe is altruism and a new way to force humanity into like a state of evolution or something like that. They believe that we're about to evolve, and they're going to be the ones that push us into a new evolution. It's crazy, man. It's just nuts. Now, I don't understand what the hell they think that they're going to do. She doesn't believe that black home ownership in New York City is going to be in any way, shape, or form affected. So listen, this is all about sticking it to white people. That's what it is. If there were a black family that is going to be harmed by their policies, there will be no doubt an expedited appeals process or something that's going to be put in place for them. No doubt about it, because this witch and her ilk are out there to clip off the testicles, and tie the fallopian tubes of every white person in this country, especially those who do not vote the way they do. It's crazy. It's crazy how they have brought that specific theme to the fore. You know, back it was just all through winks and nods, and they still had some kind of there's something that they can pretend, they can gaslight a little bit better and saying, "Wow, you guys are very racist, aren't you? I didn't say anything about that." But now they're just saying it. We have to level out these white people. They have way too much stuff, and we have to actually change the way that we think about the stuff we own. Okay. Trust me, there's no socialist or communist in this country that doesn't want stuff for themselves. No socialist or communist in this country that doesn't want stuff for themselves. So it's crazy, man. Crazy. And then this is the best part. Zohran Mamdani called up Donald Trump to register his opposition with the move against Maduro.
You said in a statement earlier today that you had been briefed on the situation with Maduro in Venezuela and soon to be New York. Were you spoken to the president about?
Briefed by my first deputy mayor, my chief of staff, my chief counsel, the police commissioner, as well as other members of my team. I called the president and spoke with him directly to register my opposition to this act, and to make clear that it was an opposition based on being opposed to a pursuit of regime change, to the violation of federal and international law, and a desire to see that be consistent each and every day.
I'll shut the fuck up. Clean up the subways and shut the fuck up, you smirking moron. That's just, I wonder if he actually got through to the president. Yeah, Mr. President, it's the mayor of New York. I just wanted to, register my opposition of what you're doing over there. Smirking bastard. Anyway, so it's only like day 4 of that freak. But that's what we have. That's all we have for today. Plenty more to come tomorrow. And I appreciate you all for your time. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this and for that. And yeah. We'll catch you on the flip side. In the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, please become a sponsor of the show if you want. There's tons of members-only content that has been accruing just from over the holidays alone that you're going to love. Little field trips, little behind the scenes on one eve or another, recipes, so many more good things coming your way. And I appreciate you. Thank you. If you're a new viewer, we're here Monday through Thursday. And then on Friday nights we air pre-recorded stuff, and we have Saturday night tonight. This weekend we're gonna have a Saturday night special. We're actually gonna have 3 Saturday night specials this month: the 10th, the 17th, and the 31st. So it's gonna be so many fun things going on. Welcome, subscribe, link, share, whatever the hell it is, and I will catch you on the flippity flop. There is no public flip side tonight because we're doing the book club. So book clubbers, go and click your private link, and I'll be there in just a second. Good night, and thank you all.
I'll catch you on the flip side.
Quite Frankly is filmed before a live studio audience all over the world. And now, our super chatters, Jay Seminara. Thank you to Jay Britz and to Loj K and Gunthor for becoming a member. Joe Martinez, Genie Yankee fan, it's Sean O'Vision, and more. Thank you to our Rumble Ranters. Thank you to the Gold Pillars. It's so great. Trisha QP Texas, Flashy Wizard, and we will see you soon. Be well.